So Bone Lake was directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan, and it's about these two couples that wind up at the same Airbnb, and that's not awkward enough. The conversations they begin having about various things in their past become a lot more awkward, and it leads to confrontations that you probably wouldn't expect. So this was a movie that I've been hearing about for the past couple weeks now. I didn't expect to really see it, only to discover that it was actually a mystery movie, and that's how I got to see it. It was actually a mystery movie last week. And so I was curious to see what this movie was going to be like, what it was about, and honestly, for the most part, I had a good time with it. But it's not a flawless movie by any means. I think there are times where I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. But sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense then. So let's dive into it. First off, I do think that all four leads are pretty good. I think the performances are really good. You do believe all of them as couples. You do believe their problems. You do believe you do believe it when they're going through problems. You do believe it when they're saying how much they love each other. It is a very they're very realistic couples, I feel like, for the most part, until you get to a certain point, but we'll talk about that. Also, I didn't expect this from a movie called Bone Lake. This movie is actually shot very well. Like, wow, I was not expecting decent cinematography from a movie like Bone Lake, but there are so many shots where it's like, okay, that's actually kind of cool what you're doing, and very creative with the camera work and such. That was pretty interesting. Also, I admittedly did not really know where this movie was going to go, if I'm being honest. It's like you kind of see a trailer and you're like, okay, I can kind of get the sense of where this movie is going to end up. But for this movie, honestly, I actually didn't really know where this movie was going to go. So, isn't that fun with movies these days? You can actually go into a movie and not know what's going to happen. I like that with movies these days, and in age of spoilers aplenty. The fact that I don't know where something's going, it's like, okay, I'm glad that happened. So I would also say this movie is pretty fun overall. I would say it becomes interesting, but then it becomes more fun during the third act when you kind of see like all the puzzle pieces are kind of in place, and you're like, okay, now we can get to the fun stuff. There are some pretty creative kills. There are some pretty creative moments where it's like, okay, that's pretty intense right there. It's a fun movie, but I wouldn't really say it's a horror movie. I would say more of a thriller than a horror movie, if I'm being honest. Like, if you're like into something really scary for this time of year, it's not here. I would say if you like thrillers, I would give this one a chance. Maybe one that's a little bit more comedic than average. But also, I would say that this movie does have some very interesting thoughts about like relationships and such, about, how much you love someone. It definitely, when I was watching it, it was like, okay, there's kind of some things that are going on with these relationships. So it's like, okay, you kind of don't really like these people, but you saw that they were in love already, but you kind of want them to work things out, but you don't know if they actually will, and you actually, dare I say, care about the characters quite a bit. Meanwhile, the other couple is like, okay, they're clearly in sync with each other, but they may be kind of twisted in some weird way, and they're kind of like really disturbed in some way. Like they kind of like, they're clearly horrible people, but they're more in sync with each other. That I found very interesting in this movie. But let's talk about some things I don't like about this movie. First off, there are a couple tonal shifts in this movie. I would say basically you'll kind of know if you like this movie within the first few minutes, because there is a moment in this movie that got me. It's like, okay, I can't do that anymore. And for the rest of the movie, it does play like a very standard thriller, but it's just kind of weird because like you just have this random moment and then it doesn't become crazy again until like the last third. I feel like it was just kind of less about like, trying to build a tone, and more just for shock value, and I felt like that was kind of underwhelming. Also, I do agree that the characters can be unlikable, but I also kind of feel like that's kind of the point. It's like you're kind of not really on each other's side. You're kind of like not on the side of either character. You kind of like understand like why this person's upset, why their partner is upset. It's like you kind of get why it's like that, but at the same time, it's like, again, I'm okay with. It's like I'm not okay, but I'm okay with it because I get it. But it can be a lot to get past some of these characters and some of the things I talk about. But also, this movie really reminded me of a bunch of other different movies. I won't go into them because if I say some of these movies, it would be a spoiler. I will say there was one about a moment about an hour into this movie where I'm thinking to myself, so this movie's just becoming this movie now. And before I actually started this review, there was actually another movie I thought of because of the twist in the movie, which again, I won't say because the movie itself is, because again, I don't want to spoil this movie by any means, but there was a moment like right before I started filming where I'm like, wait a minute, I remember this plotline from this other movie. Again, I won't say it because I feel like if I say it, it's going to give away some spoilers about this movie. But I would try to check it out at some point. Maybe you don't need to rush out to the theater to see it again with a bunch of scary movies. With Halloween right around the corner, maybe you want something more scary than thrilling, and I think there is a difference between the two words. But this movie it's fun enough, but it could have been, I don't know. I don't know what I was really expecting, but by the time the movie was over, I was like, I had a good time with it at least. So would I recommend it? In a sense, yes. But if you're looking for something really scary for Halloween, not it. So Bone Lake, even though I enjoyed the performances, they are believable enough. It is shot very well. I kind of didn't know where it's going. It is fun overall. It does have some interesting conversations about relationships and such. There are some funny moments here and there throughout the entire movie. And even though the characters can be unlikable, again, I think that's also kind of the point of the movie. The shifts in tone are kind of obvious and kind of borderline on shock value rather than just like, for tone or anything. And also, it does remind me of other horror movies and such. It's still worth watching at some point. I think it's more of a fun movie, like a fun experiment. But I would also say it's also better than it needs to be. For a movie called Bone Lake, this movie is actually more competent and more sophisticated than I expected it to be. I'll give Bone Lake 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. You don't have to rush out to see this movie by any means, but if you catch it on a streaming service within the next few weeks, honestly, give it a chance. So, did you see Bone Lake, and what is a movie that you felt was very underseen when you saw it? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.